If you were with me for video 9, you'll have heard me talk a bit about my business model and also suggesting I might be a little bit provocative on this occasion about coaching and maybe looking at thinking of the sorts of coaching product that you are offering. And I guess as background to that, it's worth saying that what's absolutely obvious is that, what the hell is coaching? Because if you look at coaching from, say, the small SME in manufacturing in the UK, we know that a lot of people out there, do not know what coaching is, no idea at all. They see something on television which is to do with people being bullied and directed and led, and I mean led, by people who clearly have no knowledge of what we think coaching is as a facilitating, empowering style that helps people think for themselves and become independent, creative, successful thinkers rather than dependent, useless, unintelligent people who just need help. A completely different but doesn't mean it's not valid. It means that simply we're using a term which is tired. It's not precise. It's like the word consultant. What does that mean? It means something in a hospital, but it doesn't mean anything anywhere else. What are you offering? Are you doing something? Are you taking something? Are you recording something? Are you telling someone what to do? Are you mentoring them? What are you doing as a consultant? Same. So we then have to think, well, perhaps we need to differentiate what it is we're doing when we talk about coaching. I think we need to be very specific about it. We're trying to do that where we are. I don't think that journey is finished. And of course, I've got a commitment to the word coaching, performance coaching, self-coaching leadership in my books, talk about coaching in papers. So perhaps a bit harder for me to do that than it is for many people. But it is a journey. I'll increasingly be talking probably about performance coaching as almost as a brand, if you like, to see whether I can make that one stick as people understanding it. It's facilitating. And that occasionally we need to move to mentoring if someone doesn't have enough context or understanding. And we might need to move to support and some tools and some factual information and some exercises if they're really really don't have enough context and understanding and experience to know how to use the sort of questions that you're asking. Whether let's say it might be about emotion, what emotions are, might be about understanding others and the messages that other people give in their language that people may be completely out of sight with that one. So what am I saying? What are we offering and what is coaching? We're trying, I think, I know we are trying to differentiate it, and maybe we come up with something else. I talked about SMEs, and I can give you an example of that where we have completely, with the agreement of our principal, which is government organisation, effectively, running government funds, to work with SMEs nationally. And there what we have found is that the SMEs do not understand what coaching is, they're confused by it. So our whole raft of products, and about 5 or 6 products in training and coaching and various types of coaching product, the whole lot has been changed. And it's all going over now to executive development and executive development training and executive development one-to-one. And the word coaching has gone absolutely completely because it is a confusion in that market. So that's one thing. Do you call it something coaching? Like McLEOD coaching or Jones coaching or Thompson coaching. Do you have a brand for that? Something you can create, or is it best to call it consulting or one-to-one or something else? Now that's a question for you. I don't know the answer. There is another question. Do we really sell coaching? Or are we selling a result? Are we selling the possibility for people to take an issue and or a target stroke goal and convert the issue to a target or goal, or work with their target or goal to a success and to something that's a sustainable, learned pattern of thinking that's success? Do we coach them to several successes so that builds their self-esteem and self-confidence? What is it we're actually selling? Because coaching is just an activity. It's not a result. So maybe when we start thinking about what it is that happens when we do what we do when we coach, we might come up with something else in terms of a product, in something else that's saleable to a particular audience out there. And I guess there's one thing around that. It's also about how big is your market. I guess that's going to depend on your experience, where you were before, how well known you are. But for most of the people, most of the time, you're better off with a niche. Smallish range of products into a niche that knows you, respects you, even if they've seen you as something else. You've got to build those bridges and build that new rapport and being seen and identified as someone who does that. You're no longer a doctor or a nurse or whatever it is in a hospital setting. You're now the person who trains and coaches people. That can take a while, but probably easier a lot of the time than starting afresh with somebody in manufacturing submarines or something. So find a niche and become a big piece of that niche, become important to that niche, become the person in that niche. And if you stick to it, if you coach yourself and stick to it, get a coach, the chances are that you will be successful in that area, in spite of all the coaches out there. And there are many people calling themselves coaches. I'm probably the guiltiest person in Britain for creating coaches. Over 15,000 coaches through the Newcastle courses which I designed, which is probably more coaches than any other school, all the other schools in Britain put together over this time frame, the last few years. So I'm part of the problem, if you like, only part of it. But a lot of consultants, a lot of trainers, a lot of psychotherapists, a lot of people in TA and emotional intelligence who also call themselves coaches in certain contexts, more or less all or some of the time. You need to differentiate from all of that lot, and I hope that my thoughts, provocative or as they may or may not be, are useful to you, and I wish you luck with your coaching, and maybe if I get round to series 3, well, I'll be with you in your living room or wherever you are again. I look forward to that, and thank you again for listening. Thank you.